That's right. Welcome to SVC Sports Weekly, Hurricane Sandy edition. It's starting to get pretty bad out there, and some of you might not get to this radio program until you get your power back. We wish all of you the best. But welcome to the program. I'm Mike Nosek alongside Dave Gage, head baseball coach, returning from his trip to Florida last week. Dave, you look outside the windows, and I'm sure you're missing those sandy beaches.
Yeah, you know, as we were leaving, the hurricane was coming up through, and I guess it just decided to follow me up, so hopefully this thing gets out of here. And like you said, wish everyone the best, but I do wish I was still on the beach.
I'm sure I wouldn't mind being there myself, but glad I'm here on the campus of Southern Vermont College because lots of action last week, lots of stuff going on this week. Let's get right to it with cross country, participating in the New England Collegiate Conference Championships down in Waterford, Connecticut. It's pretty much the Mitchell College home course, and some pretty good results down there for the men's and the women's side.
Yeah, you know, the men's side finished 2nd out of 5 and women 4th out of 6. A couple really good finishes by individuals, so great weekend for the cross country squad. Yeah,
Josh Caesar, a name that we seem to mention every week that cross country competes, finished 4th overall, and so the top 5 runners in this championship get put on the first team all conference, and then the 6 through 10 placings get second team. So Josh's 4th place finish puts him on the first team. Victor Velasquez, sophomore captain, finished 10th, so he made the second team. And again, you know, 2nd overall. Coach Maria Stuber was extremely excited, very happy for her runners. She said they all ran perfectly. All of their splits, all of their pacing was on key, and everything that they had practiced really hard over the last 2 weeks really showed on Saturday.
Yeah, as you know, they were definitely prepared for this all year. You know, a lot of tough courses and everything, and great results, like you said. You know, for Josh in 2nd place, it's, I'm pretty sure, the highest result the cross country program's had in the last 5 or 6 years, and as far as I'm aware of.
I want to say we have to go all the way back to Dan Dix in 2001-ish, early 2000s, when he won the GNAC championship. That was the best finish for an SVC male runner. So congratulations, Josh and Victor and the rest of the men. Good season, and a couple of them will be competing at the NCAA's the regional event in a couple weeks. And you know, one thing Stuber mentioned to me was that the course is very flat, and they've been used to a lot of hilly courses, and she said it was actually more difficult on the flat course because mentally you don't have that focus of, all right, I'm going up a hill or I'm going down a hill. It's just kind of, I'm still running, I'm still running. So they were able to overcome that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they have done all year is overcome the tough course at home, or overcome running on that flat course, like you said, this weekend. So a great result team-wise, great result individually, and same thing on the women's side. You know, they did well as well.
Yeah, the women finished 4th. That ties their best finish for an NECC title, which was 2008, the first year in which they competed at that championship meet. Alice Lala finishing 5th, so she made first team all conference, and then Haley Omasta finished 7th, putting her on the all NECC second team. So some all conference runners, that's really good. You can definitely see that this program is going in the right direction.
Yep. Congratulations to the cross country team and to Coach Maria Stuber for a great year, and hopefully best of luck in the NCAAs.
Absolutely. I think we'll go over to men's soccer now.
What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Sorry, Mr. Mora, but we are going to talk about playoffs because that's right. The men's team is headed back to the NECC postseason. They needed a win on Saturday against Newberry during their senior day / pink out day. And throughout the week, you know, the coach and everyone else in the department were watching scores around the conference because they needed some help to get into the playoffs. They got that help. It was all on them Saturday. They knew a win and they were in, a tie, and that was the end of their season. And they came through and they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, you know, that was the best game that I've seen them play. I know, you know, if you talk to head coach Tim Penrod, he says that, you know, against Daniel Webster they played really well, but they played like they had a sense of urgency on Saturday, and everything was clicking. And as we've talked about, that team is very, very talented. And right now, everybody's 0-0. Yeah, they're the 6th seed, but everyone's 0-0 and a few wins, and you know, records don't matter anymore. You know, throw them out the window and let's have some fun in the playoffs. Let's get to work.
Exactly. You know, it's, again, Tim mentioned that their playoffs essentially started on Saturday, needing that win to get into the official postseason. But pretty much walking onto the field there, they knew that they needed to win 4 straight games in order to capture the championship. So they've got the first one out of their way, and they move on to Elms College on Wednesday. That time tentatively scheduled for 5:30. That's still up in the air, obviously, with all the weather concerns. Elms does have a turf field, so hopefully that helps the situation a little bit. Elms beat Southern Vermont 4-1 in their regular season meeting. Do you think that they'll be able to take what they learned from that game and apply it to Wednesday and come through with a better result?
Yeah, I think this is now the time where, now you start looking at film and saying, okay, where do we exploit this and exploit that? And this is where, as a coach, this is when it's fun, playoff time. Everybody, they have film of us, we have film of them, and it's just, for our team, you can't be freshmen anymore. It's you're in game, whatever game you are at in the season, and you just got to go out and play and have some fun in the playoffs. And you look at this weekend, and Pierre Messina scored the game-winning goal. Who stepped up? You got to have those seniors and those upperclassmen stepped up. Connor Murray had the assist, so those guys are going to have to play well. Chris Hansen will return. He's got to have a good game. Those upperclassmen really have to step up and have a good game in the playoffs and lead this team.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Connor Murray, Chris Hansen, and Doug Spingola, the 3 senior members of the team, and when they walk onto that pitch Wednesday afternoon/night, they know that could potentially be the last time that they put on an SVC uniform, and they got to be hungry going to the championship the last 2 years. They want to get back there, and they want to actually bring it home. So that they'll be full blast going for it and pulling out all the stops.
Yep. And I think there's going to be, a little bit. They're on a roll right now. Their energy's high. They did clinch that last game, and there's nothing like making the playoffs on the last day of the season and having that energy. So hopefully it does roll over into this week. And Elms did beat us at home, so hopefully, we go back there and return the favor.
Again, that game at Elms on Wednesday is scheduled right now for 5:30. Check out svcathletics.com for up-to-the-minute schedules, as that time could be changed. Go over to the women's side of things, and records being broken last week. They had 2 matches, the women did, both conference matches. They won both of them. A 5-0 win over Bay Path on Wednesday, and then a 5-1 win at Wheelock on Saturday in the season finale. And I think we'll go in chronological order. Wednesday, Caitlin Foriant, a consistent name on this program, scored 4 goals. Her first one tied, and then her second one broke the single-season record for an SVC women's soccer player, and with the other 2. And then her 5th of the week against Wheelock, she now has 19. So she met that record that we've mentioned a couple times and has exceeded it.
Yeah, nothing like having one of your best weeks of the season, the last week of the regular season, and getting hot for the playoffs.
Absolutely, And then the win against Wheelock gave the team their 11th win of the season. That is the most in program history. Head coach Michael Zazig, he commented that the old record, held by 4 previous teams, were all coached by his mentor, Scott McKenzie. And you could see he kind of was a little happy to surpass Scott.
Yeah, I think this team deserves so much credit, and Michael deserves so much credit of how much they have overcome this year. Just injury, sickness, you name it. You know what I mean? And just look at last week. Katie Raymond, who is a defender, plays goalkeeper, earns her first 2 wins of her career playing goal. And like I said, she's not even a goalkeeper. So just kudos to Michael and the job that he's done this year. And I know he'll say, well, we got to win in the playoffs, and I'm sure they're going to be prepared. But, it is phenomenal how well this team has played. And to earn the 5th seed going into the playoffs, congrats on their records. And hopefully they can make a little bit of run this week as NECC championships start.
Absolutely. And as Dave mentioned, the women got the 5th seed, taking on the 4th-seeded Becker College in the 7-team tournament. Leslie University grabbing the number 1 seed. They'll have the bye in the first round with a 9-0 conference record. And then, the women go to play Becker on Wednesday, and that game actually got moved from Tuesday to Wednesday due to the weather, which actually might help us because now Michael is getting players an extra day to rest. All the players that have been hurt or had concussions, whatever it was, that's another 24 hours for them to get a little healthier and be able to give him that little bit extra come Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And I know we spent a lot of time talking about when Becker came here and played, and score was 0-0. They pick up a red card. They go down a player and end up getting 2 goals and beating us 2-0 here on our turf. And I know Michael and I have had numerous conversations about adjustments that could be made, and that's a game that is definitely starred on the schedule, and they're ready to go. And I think you're right. Having another day to get people healthy will be really good for them.
So the women go to Becker College, also a turf field, on Wednesday. That game tentatively scheduled for 4 o'clock. However, if Becker is to lose power and not be able to keep the lights on for the afternoon, it could get moved up as early as 2 o'clock. So again, make sure you're checking out svcathletics.com for up-to-the-minute schedules. And second year in a row for the women going back to the postseason. Zozig's second year as a coach. So congratulations to him. That's a great feat. And another program moving in the right direction.
Yep.
And we'll finish it up with women's volleyball. They clinched the #1 seed for the second year in a row last week in their win against Elms College. They also knocked off Leslie University in their other conference match. So that puts them, again, at a perfect 8-0 in conference. Never dropped a single set. And you could see that they're kind of clicking on all cylinders going into these postseason, in which they'll host the semifinals on Friday evening.
Yeah, to not drop a single set all year long just shows how dominant they are. You can show up and another team can play really well. You can play really bad at any point, and to go 24-0 for straight sets in conference play is pretty phenomenal. So again, kudos to that team for showing up every night when it's a conference game and being ready to go and playing well. But again, they got to take care of business this weekend when they host Friday and Saturday, and hopefully they'll get the job done.
Yeah, the team was 3-3 overall last week. They went 1-3 at the Skidmore Invitational, but they played very tough competition. Those 3 losses coming to Union College in 5, and then Skidmore and New Paltz State in 3 sets. And those are some of the highest ranked teams in the region, in the New York region. So I don't think you can look at those results and say, oh, they're slipping, or oh, watch out, because the competition, as I mentioned, is very tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I know we discussed last week is, at the very least, they're getting prepared for the NCAAs. They're playing teams that they're more likely going to see at the NCAAs. So they've seen them, and hopefully now maybe they'll get a better seed. And the Union game playing, getting to the 5th set is something. But like I said, first of all, they got to take care of business this weekend.
Yeah, at that Skidmore Invitational, senior captain Danielle Healis was named to the all-tournament team. Congratulations to Danielle. Her efforts over the week also garnered her the NECC Player of the Week honor. So again, congratulations to Danielle. And as we mentioned, the women will host the semifinals and championship match. SVC is slated to play the winner of, I believe it's Regis against Daniel Webster. No, that's not right. Daniel Webster against Leslie University at 5 o'clock on Friday night. And then they also host Newberry against Regis versus Mitchell, which will begin around 40 minutes after the conclusion of the first match. And then the championship slated to begin at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Hopefully SVC will be back there and shooting for their second consecutive conference title.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And the one thing I have to say about fall is 5 teams, 5 playoff appearances. That's for our school. Congratulations to all those coaches. Great job. Great job to all the athletes. And it's awesome to see everybody's there. Everybody's got a chance to win it. And great fall year, but we definitely would like to come home with some championships, some banners this week.
Absolutely. And again, good luck to all those coaches and athletes, and we hope that you bring back the hardware. Before we leave, I do have to mention, forgot to mention earlier, Caitlin Forant being named the NECC Women's Soccer Rookie of the Week for the 3rd time this year. So again, congratulations, Caitlin, absolutely tearing up the charts with her performances. So good luck to all the athletes. Make sure you're checking out svcathletics.com for up-to-the-minute schedules. You can see all those times. Hopefully the weather doesn't affect things too much. And we'll catch you next week on SVC Sports Weekly. I hope that everyone stays safe. Go Mountaineers!